In a glass and steel mansion overlooking the San Francisco Bay, Adrian Maxwell discovered that items from his storage room had gone missing 3 times in just 21 days. The billionaire CEO of Maxwell Innovations ran his tech empire with the kind of precision normally reserved for Swiss watchmakers. People described him as brilliant, decisive, and emotionally unavailable, the perfect attributes for dominating Silicon Valley. Adrian dressed in tailored charcoal suits with barely a crease, spoke in clipped tones that left no room for misinterpretation, and moved through life as if every second not accounted for was a failure in management. He wasn't cruel, he wasn't warm. He simply functioned at a level where empathy seemed impractical. That morning, Adrian delivered the keynote at the Summit on Equity and Technology and Urban Renewal. The applause echoed across the auditorium as he stepped away from the podium, his bespoke suit catching the light just right. His speech, structured around ethical investment, models, and sustainable urban development, was praised as visionary. He nodded through the compliments, posed for the requested photos, then slipped out precisely 2 minutes ahead of schedule. The drive home to Pacific Heights was silent. Adrian reviewed a dashboard of live company metrics on his tablet, project timelines, hiring efficiencies, investment risk scores. Everything was within acceptable thresholds. As it should be, his estate recognized his vehicle on approach. Gates opened automatically, lights adjusted inside, the front entrance unlocked before he reached the last step. Jason Rivera was standing just inside, as he always did. No words, just a nod and a slight adjustment of the cloth in his hand. "Welcome home, Miss Maxwell. Anything urgent?" Jason asked softly. "No, messages on my desk. Dinner at 7, Adrian replied. Already halfway up the stairs, Jason didn't follow. He returned to the kitchen, disappearing into routine. What Adrian didn't see was the way Jason's shoulders relaxed once he was alone, the person beneath the uniform emerging only in solitude. Later that evening, while reviewing performance reports, Adrian noticed a system flag in the home management interface. It was minor, 3 instances over 21 days of unaccounted for items from the food inventory and first aid cabinet. Quantities were small energy bars, a bottle of antiseptic, some canned goods, all flagged by the automated reconciliation log as missing. He stared at the notification. It wasn't enough to sound an alarm, but Adrian did not tolerate inconsistency. He accessed the access logs. Only 4 individuals had nighttime clearance to storage himself. His assistant, who was currently in Tokyo, the estate's chef, who hadn't worked nights in over a month, and Jason. The young man's ID appeared on 3 dates, each time between 10:15 and 10:45 p.m. Each time aligned precisely with the anomalies. Adrian didn't react outwardly. He simply stared at the screen, feeling something shift inside his chest. Not anger, not quite suspicion, something colder. The kind of feeling you get when someone you thought you understood suddenly doesn't match the picture anymore. What secrets was Jason hiding? If you enjoy stories that challenge your assumptions about people, subscribe to Heart Stories. Tomorrow, we'll reveal what Adrian discovers when he decides to follow Jason after work, and the truth that will change both their lives forever. The following evening, Adrian cleared his schedule, canceling his dinner with investors from Toronto. Just after 9:30 p.m., he stepped into his black electric sedan with windows that darkened at the push of a button. He drove himself out of the estate, taking surface streets past gleaming buildings that bore his family name. By 10:15 p.m., he was parked down the street from his own mansion, watching as Jason stepped out the side gate carrying a cloth bag that Adrian recognized from the laundry room. Jason wore a navy pea coat pulled tight against the San Francisco chill, his steps steady and deliberate. Adrian waited until the young man turned the corner, then followed. Jason didn't take a car. He walked to the bus stop, waited under a flickering street lamp, and boarded the city line toward Castro District, the historical heart of San Francisco's LGBTQ+ community. As the bus moved east, the scenery transformed. Manicured hedges gave way to vibrant murals. Luxury storefronts became community spaces with rainbow flags. Jason stepped off near Castro Street. moving through the neighborhood with the confidence of someone who belonged. He turned down a narrow side street past a closed coffee shop, then slipped into a modest building with a hand-painted sign, Bay Area LGBTQ+ Youth Center. Adrian parked at the far end of the block and approached on foot, stopping just short of the entrance. Through the side window, he observed Jason arranging food on a folding table. Around him, about a dozen young people waited patiently in line. They ranged in age from perhaps 14 to 20, some with visible exhaustion in their eyes, others with the defiant pride of survivors. A young person with a buzz cut asked, "Where'd this food come from, Jay?" Jason smiled, warm but weary. "From good people who didn't need it as much as you do. The expiration dates are coming up, but everything's still perfectly good." The youth nodded, accepting a plate without further questions. Adrian didn't move. It wasn't shame he felt. Not yet. It was the sharp sting of not being trusted. Jason could have asked. He could have said something. Instead, he took what belonged to Adrian and walked it out the door. It wasn't about the food. It was about the fact that despite working in his home for years, Jason still didn't think Adrian was the kind of person who would help if asked. Adrian watched longer as Jason moved among the youth with a natural ease he never displayed at the mansion. He helped a young man fill out job applications. He checked another's temperature with a gentle touch to the forehead. This wasn't someone trying to get away with theft. This was someone doing exactly what they believed had to be done. The next afternoon, Adrian found himself in front of an apartment building in Mission District he wouldn't have looked at twice any other day. The entryway was cracked, and the buzzer looked like it hadn't worked in years. He climbed 3 flights of narrow stairs, the hallway smelling faintly of cleaning products and cooking spices. He paused in front of apartment 3C and knocked twice. A teenager opened in the door, perhaps 15, thin, with watchful eyes and a cautious expression. He wore a worn Star Trek t-shirt and mismatched socks. "You Mr. Maxwell?" the boy asked, without flinching. "Yes, is Jason here?" "Not yet. He's picking up my prescription. You want to come in?" Adrian hesitated, then stepped into a small but immaculate apartment. The walls were decorated with astronomy posters and family photos. In one corner stood a bookshelf with several rows of science fiction paperbacks worn from use. On the wall near the kitchen hung a framed certificate, Emergency Medical Technician, California Board of Emergency Services, 2018. "You want some water?" the boy offered. Adrian nodded. "Thank you. What's your name?" "Noah. I'm Jason's nephew." Well, technically, Noah disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a cup. "Sorry it's warm. The fridge makes weird noises, so we unplugged it." As Noah settled onto the couch, Adrian noticed medical documents stacked on the coffee table. One was an insurance denial form. Another showed a medication list with dates and check marks. Beside them sat an inhaler, half empty. "Your uncle was a paramedic?" Adrian asked, gesturing to the certificate. "EMT at SF General." Then he reported some guys for making fun of a trans patient. Suddenly his performance reviews tanked. Funny how that works. There was something sharp in that sentence that lodged in Adrian's throat. The door opened. Jason stepped in, pharmacy bag in hand, freezing when he saw Adrian. For a brief moment, surprise flickered across his face, but it quickly settled into something more guarded. "Well," he said, placing the bag on the counter, "this is unexpected." Adrian stood, unsure whether to apologize or explain. Jason looked from him to Noah. "Did you offer him water?" "Yeah, but the ice is melted." "Good. I raised you right." Jason hung his coat neatly on a peg by the door and turned back to Adrian. "I was going to make something simple for dinner. Are you hungry?" Adrian hesitated. "It won't poison you, Mr. Maxwell," Jason added with a small smile. "Just rice and beans." During the meal, they talked about ordinary things. Noah's interest in astronomy, the weather that week, a teacher who said Noah showed promise in mathematics. Nothing was said about work, about the mansion, or about the food that traveled between them. Jason moved differently here, not careful, not deferential, just himself. Adrian realized he had never really seen him be that person. As the evening progressed, Noah's breathing became increasingly labored. Jason reached for the inhaler, but Noah shook his head. Used it 3 times already. Doctor said not more than that. Jason's expression shifted, concern breaking through his composed facade. We'll figure it out. Adrian watched as Noah's wheezing worsened. He needs medical attention, he said quietly. The clinic doesn't open until morning. Jason replied, his voice tight. Then we'll go to SF Memorial. Now, Jason hesitated. We can't afford the emergency room. You won't have to. They locked eyes for a long moment. Then Jason stood. I'll get his jacket. The hospital lobby smelled of antiseptic and artificial lavender. Adrian paced while Jason sat beside Noah, the teenager leaning against his shoulder, eyes half closed. When the nurse called them, Adrian insisted on joining them. He watched as Noah was examined, scanned, stabilized. The pediatric specialist prescribed a new inhaler, a steroid treatment, and recommended overnight observation. Adrian signed every form without hesitation. Later, in the hallway outside the room, Jason approached him. You did all this without asking me. I know. We're not a charity case. You're not, Adrian replied, but I owe you more than charity. Jason looked at him like he was trying to decide whether to accept the truth or protect himself from it. He needs more than prescriptions. He needs stability. So do I, Adrian said. And I think you've given me a chance to find it, whether you meant to or not. That night, Adrian stayed at the hospital. He didn't call his assistant. He didn't respond to the 37 unread messages from investors and board members. He sat in the hallway, thinking of all the things he didn't know how to say and all the ways he could start doing more than saying them. At some point, Jason brought him a blanket, folded neatly. Adrian wrapped it around his shoulders and closed his eyes, not because he was tired, but because for the first time in years, he felt something real. 3 days later, Meredith Whitman walked into Adrian's office without knocking. She moved with the sharp precision she always did, designer heels echoing against the marble floor, a leather portfolio tucked under one arm. You missed 2 strategic planning meetings this week, she said. Without explanation, Adrian looked up from his screen. I had something more important. Meredith exhaled through her nose. People are talking, Adrian. Investors, partners. Your absence is being noticed. They want to know if you're still running the company or checking out. I'm not checking out, he said. I'm choosing where to be present. And where exactly is that? At a hospital bedside for a teenager who couldn't afford an inhaler. Meredith's eyes narrowed. Since when do you care about healthcare inequity? Since I saw it up close, Adrian replied. Since I realized my own community is suffering while I build algorithms to optimize profit. By the following weekend, Adrian found himself at the Bay Area LGBTQ+ Youth Center again. This time, he didn't wait for an invitation. He arrived with rolled-up sleeves and started organizing donated clothing. The space bustled with volunteers setting up computer stations and young people seeking resources. Some arrived with all their possessions in backpacks, having been expelled from homes that should have protected them. The center director, Elena Martinez, approached with skepticism written across her face. Jason said you might be coming. Billionaires don't usually volunteer here unless cameras are following. No cameras, Adrian replied, continuing to sort clothes. Just me, Wihei. Elena studied him. We need more than one good day from allies. These kids have been promised help before. Adrian met her gaze. I'm not here as an ally. I'm here as someone who forgot his own community until recently. By noon, Adrian was helping a group of teenagers navigate basic coding on donated laptops. One youth, barely 17 with a faded blue mohawk, showed particular promise. You really think I could learn programming? The teen asked. I think you already are. Adrian replied later as the center emptied. Elena handed Adrian a stack of paperwork. Our lease is up for renewal, Landlords raising rent by 40%. We'll have to close in 60 days unless a miracle happens. Adrian took the papers. I might know someone who can help with that. The following week, Adrian gathered his legal team. I want to establish a foundation, separate from the company, independent board, focus on LGBTQ plus youth services, starting with housing and education. His head counsel frowned. This is outside our usual corporate philanthropy structure. That's the point, Adrian replied. I don't want our logo plastered on everything. I want actual change. The process was more complex than anticipated. Tax codes, governance structures, funding mechanisms. The American philanthropic system seemed designed to discourage genuine charity. Meanwhile, Adrian purchased the building housing the youth center, offering the organization a 99-year lease at $1 annually. When he presented the proposal to Jason, the younger man shook his head. You want me to run this? I don't have the credentials. You have the experience, Adrian countered. These kids trust you. Degrees can be earned. Jason stared out the window. I dropped out of nursing school to care for Noah. I can't go back now. You can. UC Berkeley has a nonprofit management program. Part-time, flexible scheduling. Jason turned to him. Why are you doing all this? Adrian was quiet for a moment. When my parents found out I was gay, they told me I no longer existed to them. I had resources, scholarships, connections. Most of these kids have nothing. I built a technology empire while forgetting the people I came from. The center's reopening drew local media attention. The newly named Bay Area Youth Haven featured expanded computer labs, medical consultation rooms, and emergency housing units. As cameras flashed, Adrian remained in the background, watching Jason cut the ribbon with Noah at his side. That evening, a call came from Richard Stanfield, Adrian's largest investor. This gay charity stunt has gone far enough, the older man growled. The board is concerned about brand dilution. It's not a stunt, Adrian replied calmly, and it's not negotiable. Then neither is my continued investment, Stanfield threatened. Choose wisely, Adrian. After hanging up, Adrian sat in silence, weighing decades of business strategy against his newfound purpose. The answer, surprisingly, came easily. 2 weeks later, Adrian received an invitation to speak at a national conference on youth homelessness in Washington, D.C. He declined, instead nominating Jason. Your story will reach people mine never could. Jason balked. I've never spoken to crowds. I wouldn't know what to say. Adrian handed him a notebook. Start by telling the truth. That's always harder and more powerful than any prepared speech. Together, they worked on Jason's presentation, focusing on the reality that 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ+, despite representing only 7% of the youth population. As Jason practiced, his voice grew stronger, his passion evident. Noah watched from the kitchen table, pride shining in his eyes. You're going to change things, Noah told his uncle. Not everyone, but enough people to matter. When the day came for Jason to fly to D.C., Adrian insisted on coming along, not to speak, but to support. From the back of the auditorium, he watched as Jason took the stage, nervous but resolute. My name is Jason Rivera, he began. I'm not an expert or a politician. I'm just someone who couldn't look away. 6 months later, Adrian stood before his company's board of directors. Presentation slides showing not profit margins, but impact metrics from the newly established Maxwell Foundation for LGBTQ+ youth. Richard Stanfield sat scowling at the far end of the table, while Meredith Whitman watched with cautious interest. This isn't just charity, Adrian explained. It's sustainable community investment. We've established 5 regional centers modeled after Bay Area Youth Haven. Each provides emergency housing, healthcare access, educational support, and job training. Stanfield interrupted. Shareholders don't care about your personal redemption arc. Adrian, they care about returns. Adrian nodded. I agree. That's why I've included the data on workforce development. 87 youth from our programs are now employed in tech roles, including 17 at our own company. These are brilliant minds that would have been lost. The presentation continued, detailing partnership models with hospitals to provide healthcare access and mentorship programs connecting LGBTQ+ youth with professional role models. As Adrian concluded, the room remained silent for several moments. Finally, Meredith spoke. "This is unconventional, but the metrics are compelling. I move to approve continued funding." The vote passed, with only Stanfield and 2 others opposed. Afterward, Meredith approached Adrian. "You've changed," she observed. "For the better, I hope." "Remains to be seen," she replied. "But it's interesting to watch." At the Foundation's first annual gala, Jason took the stage as executive director, his confidence evident as he addressed a room filled with Silicon Valley's elite. Noah stood nearby, now healthy and thriving, recently accepted into Stanford's early admission program for gifted students. Adrian watched from the sidelines, content to let others lead. The Foundation had expanded rapidly, developing innovative housing solutions and specialized healthcare programs in cities across America. Jason had been appointed to a mayoral committee on youth services in San Francisco, bringing his frontline experience to policy discussions. The Youth Haven model was being studied by organizations nationwide. When it was Adrian's turn to speak, he kept his remarks brief. "True success isn't measured by what we acquire, but by what we enable others to become. Every young person deserves the chance to discover their potential without fighting for their existence." Later that evening, as the event wound down, Adrian found Noah sitting alone on the venue's terrace, staring at the stars. "Thinking about black holes again?" Adrian asked, joining him. Noah smiled. "Actually, I was thinking about parallel universes. Like, what if you never followed Jason that night? Where would we all be now?" "In a much poorer reality," Adrian replied. "You had everything already. I had nothing that mattered." The change hadn't been immediate or simple. There had been board fights, investor walkouts, and painful confrontations with his own privilege. Adrian had learned to listen more than speak, to follow more than lead. In the process, he discovered what family could mean beyond biology, a connection built on choice rather than obligation. As the Foundation's work expanded, Adrian found himself increasingly drawn to advocacy, testifying before state legislatures about healthcare access and housing discrimination. The billionaire who once avoided personal connection now spent weekends helping youth learn coding or simply listening to their stories over pizza dinners at the center. Jason, Noah, and Adrian had created something that transcended traditional definitions. Not quite family in the conventional sense, but bound by something equally profound. They had dinner together every Sunday, marking the week's victories and planning for challenges ahead. The mansion in Pacific Heights no longer felt like Adrian's home. Instead, he spent most evenings in a modest apartment near the center, finding more comfort and purpose than in luxury. When Noah graduated as valedictorian of his high school class, both Jason and Adrian sat in the front row, sharing tissues and pride. The speech Noah gave spoke of finding family in unexpected places and building communities where everyone belonged. What dreams have you set aside while chasing success? What connections have you missed while focusing elsewhere? The most important relationships often begin when we look beyond our assumptions about others. If this story touched you, subscribe to Heart Stories for more narratives that challenge perspectives and celebrate the families we choose. Remember, true wealth lies in the lives we touch, not the empires we build.